the pull. Travels a little past midfield. Dan Weiss picks up the disc. Fakes hammer. Pat King comes to the near side, right at midfield, goes forehand to Bob DeMann. Had Aaron Flores open, didn't get it to him. Now Kenny Dobbins free, doesn't see that. Bob goes underneath to Dan Weiss, about a yard out of the goal line. They set up for Bob DeMann. Don't have it there. Pat King for the score! Dan Weiss to Pat King. New York 1, Iguanas 0. New York's Dennis Worston now pulling upwind. New York looking to take an early advantage by scoring an early upwind goal. The Iguanas now bring it into play. Far side of the field, number 22, Scott Epps. Goes to the middle of the field. Nice grab down here by number 5, John Ryan. Goes backhand. Middle of the field now, number 50, Kurt Cools to number 32. Rich Gallagher now dumps back to the middle of the field. Far sideline now. Nice grab and dropped. Unlike football, in ultimate, the ground can cause a turnover, and that's what happened there. Now we come over this side, New York, Aaron Flores. And we have a stoppage. Aaron Flores discussing the call with number 22 from LA. Now it's in play. Now Scott Epps on the mark. For those of you looking for referees, you won't find any. Since the sport was founded in 1968, there has not been a referee involved in a men's final game. Players will sort out their own disputes, and if they can't resolve a decision, they'll check to the observers, who are the blue-shirted men patrolling the sideline. Now John Goertz to Mike Yonda, and down. Now back into play, LA. Dump on the far side of the field. Now come this way. Number 5, John Ryan. A little bump there between John Goertz and number 13, Jim Ingebrigtsen, or Big Jim Daddy as they call him. Number 5 now comes to this side of the field to an open man, LA, now 15 yards out. Number 32 fakes, now goes backhand, John Ryan. Backhand to the far side, number 11, Mike Blackard. Now goes backhand into the end zone for number 32, Rich Gallagher. LA ties the score, New York 1, LA 1. Iguanas set to pull upwind. New York waiting to receive.
We got New York! We got New York!
Disc is in the air. Dan Weiss puts it into play for New York. Goes to Dave Blau. Fakes to Pat King. Now from the middle, there's Kareem Basta. Gets tripped. And Mike Nevins picks up the disc. There's a stoppage. New York got to this final by crushing Windy City from Chicago 21-7 in the semifinals. LA, a much harder route, winning at the cap 22-21 over first-time Gary from Boston, Massachusetts. Mike Nevins now puts the disc into play to Kenny Dobbins. Now on the near side of the field, fakes forehand. Now goes backhand to Dan Weiss, about a yard out. Disc is stripped, he picks it up. They're gonna reset to Dan Weiss. And they stand about a yard away from the lead. Fakes backhand, now into Pat King for the score. And we're gonna have a foul call. Once again, Dan Weiss, now fakes to Pat King. Now it goes out to Mike Nevins. Now backhand to Kenny Dobbins. It's thrown away on the goal line. They call a play. Now Dan Weiss sets up on the mark. Greg Pins breaks down the sideline and can't hold on to the disc. Pat King with the pressure, picks it up. Shot to Mike Nevins for the score. Mike, who made that throwaway, gets the disc back in the end zone. New York 2, LA 1. Teams so far trading goals with the wind. Now Scott Epps puts it into play. Over to John Ryan. Forehand down the sideline to Jim Ingebrigtsen, who pulls it in with a diving grab. Good switch by New York on D. Back to John Ryan. Ingebrigtsen open. They get it to him on the backhand. Knocked down by Walter van der Schraff. Not a smart throw. Going into covered territory. Now Pat King goes to the far sideline. John Gewirtz has a man open deep. He's not afraid to throw it. This time holds on to it. Walter is open. Not thrown to. Pat King now bounces out with the grab. This side now. Andy Sheeman has Dennis Worsen. Doesn't throw it to him. Instead goes up the middle. Not a smart throw by Andy. Andy Sheeman threw that one into a crowd. And we have an injured player for the Iguanas. That's number 7, Jeff Landesman. Jeff sort of got caught in the middle of that pile there. Everybody converged. He's going to take himself out. Players are allowed to sub themselves out when they are injured. The other team then has the option of substituting a man on defense. John Ryan now puts the disc into play. LA goes cross field. Number 8, tough grab, Rick D'Angela. Goes backhand to John Ryan, tough throw. That looked like it was down. Now they're gonna call it up. John Gewirtz all over John Ryan. Now a switchback, Jim Ingebrigtsen. Goes backhand cross field to number 50, Kurt Cools. And they'll take that back. John Gewirtz looking mighty aggressive on the mark there. This is a non-contact sport. No contact is permitted between the offense and the defense. Back to Kurt Cools. Dennis Worsen with a great diving block. New York now looking to take advantage, about 30 yards out, trying to take that first upwind goal and the early advantage in this game. Pat King walks to the sideline. Bob Ryan will be guarding him. Walter van der Schraff, John Gewirtz set up as the first 2 cuts. The rest of the New York team is lined up in the end zone. And they now break. Far side of the field, hangs up a little bit caught by number 19, Billy Rodriguez. Backhand to Pat King on the goal line. Backhand, John Gewirtz. They're gonna take it back. Now Pat King on the goal line, being forced to throw forehand, steps around and breaks the mark. Walter van der Schraff fakes backhand. Looking to the end zone, has Pat King free. No, they're gonna call him not in. He was on the goal line. Not in, called not in. They're gonna take a check. Now into play, Pat King. Steps around backhand for the score. Dennis Worsen, the first upwind goal of the game. New York takes the early advantage. New York 3, Los Angeles 1. Dennis Worsen with the pull. New York now pulling downwind. Look for them to set up a zone defense against Los Angeles. There's a stiff breeze going on here. And they come out in a man-to-man. Ingebrigtsen, nice diving catch. No strategy game here early from New York. They're going face-to-face, man-to-man. Far sideline, Iguanas. Fake to the middle of the field. Now a break on the sideline. Jim Ingebrigtsen goes big backhand up the field. Man has position. Knocked down. Nice defense by New York. Mike Yonda. Looked like number 1, James Milan had position. Yonda came over, got the block. Gewirtz now under Ingebrigtsen. Iguanas now on defense. Pat King with the disc goes forehand. Nice grab there, middle of the field. Number 45 on New York. Comes to the middle of the field. Pat King steps around. Now forehand to Walter van der Schraff. Flip backhand. Miscommunication there. Looks like somebody made a cut there for Walter. Walter threw it. The man broke up his cut. Disc hit the ground. will bring it up with number 33, Andy Sheeman on the mark. Jacques puts it into play. Forehand to number 44, Greg Pins. Big hammer hangs up in the wind. Billy Rodriguez under with Jim Ingebrigtsen. Jim comes down with it. Nice catch. Now bounces back out to number 32, Rich Gallagher. Goes forehand in the middle of the field. Jack Jacques. Forehand to the far side. Knocked away and caught. Nice grab there. Back to Jacques, who drops an easy throw. And we have a stoppage. Rick Denagalo with the disc. Now flips backhand and turns it over. Dennis Werson to number 45 for New York for the score. That's Juano Flores. Nice catch there in the end zone. I've been informed that the Iguanas are not only from Los Angeles, but also from San Diego. So I'll be calling them the Iguanos instead of LA, just so the San Diego guys don't get bent out of shape. Now we go backhand to Jack Jacques. We're gonna have a foul called. Kenny Dobbins saying that Jack pushed off. Now Jack Jacques goes forehand. Nice catch there by John Ryan with Mike Yonda on the mark. Now forehand to Kurt Cools. Kurt now flips backhand, but the man falls down. Mike Yonda knocks the disc down. He's on the break. Kevin Candy throws it deep. Mike Yonda has a couple steps. John Ryan making up ground. Yonda has it. There's a man open. Fakes. Shot forehand for the score. New York takes their second upwind goal of the game to take a commanding 5-1 lead. Now going downwind. Number 77, Chris Phillips with the pull. Iguanas in their own end zone, now walk it up to their own goal line. New York sets up a zone. There we'll see a test of the Iguanas' passing patience, passing efficiency. Now about 15 yards deep in their own end zone. On the far sideline now in their own end zone. Towards the back corner, running out of room. Number 32 in the back of his own end zone, Rich Gallagher. Rich getting stuck, now goes forehand. Far sideline, looks like Scott Epps. Trying to direct his offense. They're running out of space and running out of time. Pops it up the middle, and it's down. New York zone smothering the Iguanas. Flip for the score. Number 27, Kevin Candy. From number 3, Skip Kuhn. New York 6, Iguanas 1. Dennis Werson for New York pulling up win. Iguanas need to make something happen right here. They can't dig themselves any bigger of a hole. Now on the near sideline, Jim Ingebrigtsen with John Goertz on the mark. Now back to number 32, Rich Gallagher. And there's a stoppage. New York is no stranger to these tournaments. New York has been involved in the national championships before, as well as the world championships. In fact, the team from New York is the current world champion, having won the tournament in Oslo, Sweden, earlier this summer. Gallagher with Billy Rodriguez. Now goes cross field. Nice catch by Kurt Cools. To Ingebrigtsen coming up the near sideline with the catch. Now to Gallagher. Nice grab. Iguanas threatening. Forehand to Scott Epps. Stripped out of his hands. They're going to call it a catch. And the Iguanas are on the board again. Nice work upfield. Great catch by Kurt Cools to set that up. New York 6, Iguanas 2. The Iguanas from Southern California making their very first appearance in a national championship. Dan Weiss picks up the disc. Kenny Dobbins breaks out. They can't get it to him. Weiss now throws to Bob DeMann, making a great cut from the back of the pack. Bob with the backhand is down. Ryan now on the corner, goes hammer, cross field. Now to this side. Number 11, Craig Cads. Back to the middle, number 44. Goes this side. John Ryan has a man open deep. It's hanging up for number 23 for the score. Brent Russell. And the Iguanas have taken an upwind goal to cut New York's lead to 3. New York 6, Iguanas 3. With a beautiful bomb to Brent Russell for an upwind score. Gives him a little lift, and you can see it in their stride as they come downfield to take up the D. Dan Weiss will walk it up. The pull was out of bounds. He'll bring it to the middle of the field. And the Iguanas look like they're setting up a zone. Yes, they are. The Iguanas set up a zone. New York, one of the best offenses in the country. Look for them to work it. Take 100 passes if necessary to get this one in. What they'll do here is they'll try to work it back and around, moving the Iguana defense from side to side to tire them out, and then punch it up the middle to an open man. Mike Nevins to Dave Blau. Kenny Dobbins let that one go through. Now backhand to Dan Weiss. Dan looking up the middle, goes to Kareem Basta, to Kenny Dobbins, to Pat King. New York methodically working it upfield. Now Dan Weiss. And I believe a travel called by Scott Epps. Keep an eye on Dan Weiss. If the disc goes back to him, he's got to be able to get over to stop the throw to number 22, Mike Nevins. Now on the far sideline, Mike Yonda. Looking for the dump. He's got it to Pat King. Blackard steps out to stop the throw to Weiss. Now Pat King goes a forehand. That's down. Not a good throw by Pat King. Now John Ryan with the disc. Doesn't have anything. Now he goes cross field, number 22. Scott Epps. Forehand in the middle of the field and dropped. New York with a chance for another upwind. Mike Yonda goes forehand and down. Good mark by Scott Epps. New York blowing an opportunity there. John Ryan now with the disc. There's a man open this side, number 11. That's Mike Blackard. Nobody on him, still nobody on him. Now goes big backhand to number 22, Scotty Epps. Wide open. Now he's gonna try to get a man free. Oh, he looks like he's hurt. Jim Ingebrigtsen comes in for Scott Epps, and John Gortz comes into mark. Now to John Ryan. Goes forehand to the corner for the score! Another diving catch by number 23, Brent Russell. Great grab there by Brent Russell. And suddenly the Iguanas have made it a game. New York 6, Iguanas 4. Iguanas, having cut the lead to 2, prepare to pull upwind. If the Iguanas can manage to block New York and score here, they will have totally negated New York's early advantage. Aaron Flores to Skip Kuhn, to Pat King. Big forehand. David Blau is open, but that's out the back of the end zone. And Rich Gallagher puts it into play to Jim Ingebrigtsen. Number 20 comes clear. They can't get it to him. Instead, this side, number 8, Rick Denagala. Fouled by number 3. And back into play. Forehand around to Jim Ingebrigtsen with John Gortz on the mark. Jack Jacques comes free. They don't get it to him. Instead, Rick Gallagher on the forehand side. Nice catch, Rick. Excuse me, nice catch, Rich. Now it goes backhand and down. Kenny Dobbins picks up the disc for New York. Now Dobbins Backhand to Dave Blau. Blau forehand to John Gewurz. John Gewurz to Aaron Flores. Goes backhand to John Gewurz. Disc back in play. John Gewurz forehand to Kenny Dobbins for the score. New York Dennis Worson now pulls up wind. Iguanas trying to answer back downwind. John Ryan goes big forehand. Jim Ingebrigtsen has a step. Gets up against Bill Rodriguez and cannot pull the disc in. Billy Rodriguez giving away a couple inches there. Looks like the wind caught that, and Jim was not in a good position to pull that in. Give a lot of credit there to Bill Rodriguez for being right there on the defense. New York now takes the disc. Mike Yonda walks it up with number 22, Scott Epps, on the mark. Yonda goes forehand, cross field, off the shoulder of number 77, Chris Phillips. And the Iguanas take advantage with a quick score. Dennis Worson makes a call, but I don't think it was involved in the play. Okay. And New York lets that decision stand, which takes the score to New York 7, Iguanas 5. Iguanas now prepare to pull upwind. New York moving left to right. Dan Weiss. Kenny Dobbins is covered. Now forehand to Kareem Basta. Fakes backhand, now goes forehand to Bob DeMann from the back of the stack. Mike Nevins bounces out and covered. Kenny Dobbins comes out and thrown. Dobbins pivots and is hit by Brent Russell. Dobbins now goes forehand to Mike Yonda. Now goes backhand to Mike Nevins. Nevins looks for Yonda. Can't get it to him. Now for Dobbins for the score. Kenny Dobbins from Mike Nevins. No, from Mike Yonda. New York 8, Iguanas 5.
Rolling.
Kevin Candy pulling upwind. Iguanas left to right. Rich Gallagher. Goes big backhand cross field, number 44, Greg Pins. Now goes forehand to number 22, Scott Epps. Comes back to the middle of the field now. Rich Gallagher. Goes backhand, number 7, Jeff Landisman. Forehand to the middle of the field now. Number 16, Tim Liddy. Goes forehand. He's going to say it. Okay, Rich Gallagher back into play. Jim Ingebrigtsen back to Rich Gallagher. Forehand into the corner for the score. The Iguanas put the disc in the end zone after a long, hotly contested point. Tough to keep your rhythm with all that discussion going on. Randy Sanchez with the goal. New York 8, Iguanas 6. Now pulling upwind. New York. Mike Nevins to Skip Kuhn. His backhand to Mike Yonda. Out to Bob DeMann. To Dave Blau. Now Mike Yonda on the far sideline. Has Dobbins open, can't get it to him. Big swing to Bob DeMann. Nice bid by John Ryan. DeMann makes the catch. Now goes backhand to Kareem Basta, who pulls the disc in. Now Basta steps around on the backhand to Kenny Dobbins for the score with a little flourish. New York answers back. New York 9, Iguanas 6. Swartzen now pulling up wind. The Iguanas seem to have settled down after the early game jitters. They need to establish their offense, get a couple more upwind goals to even this one out. Now Jack Jacques with Walter van der Schraaf. Now this side, John Ryan, they're going to send it back. Now Ryan goes upfield to Kurt Cools. Cools looking crossfield. Ingebrigtsen is covered. Nice catch there by number 11, Mike Blackard. Fakes backhand. Goes backhand. Nice catch there by number 99, Mark Orders. Now back to John Ryan. Up to 8, count was at 8, got it off the Jock. Fakes to Ingebrigtsen, now goes to the corner for the score! Once again, Brent Russell in the end zone. That's Russell's 3rd goal of the game. 3 out of the 7 goals have been scored by Brent Russell. Getting open in the end zone. New York 9, Iguanas 7. The Iguanas pull up win. New York moving left to right. They enjoy a 9-7 advantage. Halftime will be the first team to get to 11 goals. And down, dropped by Mike Yonda. This could be the break the Iguanas need to go up win. It's tipped and out of bounds. After the timeout, Greg Pins back into play. And New York has now switched to a zone defense during the timeout. Iguanas must now adjust. They move their handlers behind the disc. They still look a little confused. Rich Gallagher to Greg Pins, now to the far sideline, Scott Epps. Fakes to Gallagher. Now throws to Gallagher. New York tightens the clamps. Now out to the near sideline. Back to Pins. Crossfield to Gallagher. Across to Epps. Trying to move the New York defense around, but they reset. Iguanas look to break. Now Gallagher in his own end zone to Pins. Big hammer out here. Brent Russell. Now back to number 42, Cliff Smith. Now to Greg Pins. Big hammer cross field to Scott Epps. They fake up the sideline. And New York resets. Real strategy game going on here now. Gallagher brings it over his head. Cliff Smith pops into the middle. Now Scott Epps. Over to Cliff Smith. Now the number 8, Rick Denagala. To Gallagher, to Epps. Can't get anybody free on the far sideline. Now they go to Gallagher in the pocket. Big hammer this side. Brent Russell pulls it in. Goes back to Greg Pins. Now he's going to look for Gallagher, who will go all the way around to Epps. No, brings it into the middle now. Looking for Cliff Smith. Can't get him. Nobody out here on this side. Gallagher getting stuck. They pop it back to Pins, who goes far sideline to Epps. And New York resets. Big hammer this way. Tough catch, Greg Pins. Now back to the point to Gallagher, to Epps. Number 8, Denagala. Looks for Smith, instead to Epps. Now to Pins, has Russell out here, can't get it to him. Looks hammer. Now comes out here to Brent Russell. Back to Gallagher. Looking for Cliff Smith. He's got him. We had a little contact, so we'll take a check. They're going to take a check after the contact. Not a bad strategy move on New York. Gives their zone a little bit of rest. And you've got Cliff Smith with the disc. Now goes back to Gallagher. Big swing to Epps. Looks sideline, doesn't have anything. New York playing good zone. Iguanas playing good offense, being very patient. Now directing their offense to Cliff Smith. Up the middle to Nagala. Fakes to Smith, goes to Gallagher. Now to Smith through the middle. But no continuation, has to go back to Gallagher. To this sideline, Greg Pins, look for him to trap him in there. Bob DeMann on the mark, now gets back out to Gallagher. Now DeMann on the mark. Fakes middle, now big swing, Scotty Epps. Up the line to Nagala, they have a break and it's down. Rick DeNagala had a step. Epps couldn't get it to him. And Danny Weiss calls timeout. Now we go back into play, New York with the disc. The Iguanas made 50 passes going upwind, only to turn the disc over. Now New York brings it back down. David Blau off his hands. It's a tough play to make, coming in cold after a timeout. Iguanas looking to score upwind. Number 22, Scott Epps, New York in a man-to-man. Now this way, number 8, Rick DeNagala. Into the middle, number 32, Rich Gallagher. DeNagala comes free, has the disc. Up the middle, floating throw. Nice catch there by Cliff Smith. They're about 10 yards out from getting an important upwind goal. Cliff's got a forehand to Greg Pins. For the score to Cliff Smith. Cliff Smith from Greg Pins. And the Iguanas have scored upwind and trail New York 9-8. And Jim Ingebrigtsen now back in the game. Iguanas now going downwind. They pull. They can manage to get the turnover and score. They will have tied this game. Pull rolls at the back of the end zone. Danny Weiss will walk it up. And we talked about those 50 passes that the Iguanas made against the zone. Granted, they didn't get the score, but it looked like what they did was tire out the New York players, forced them to take a timeout, and they came out flat afterwards, got an easy turnover, and put the disc in the end zone. Kenny Dobbins now with Brent Russell on defense. Dobbins now pops out backhand. Skip Kuhn with the catch. Skip to Dennis Werson with Kurt Kuhl. Gives a little bump there. Dennis now goes a long backhand upfield. It'll be Dobbins versus Russell. And Dobbins for the score! Kenny Dobbins giving away a couple inches, just turned around Brent Russell and scored a very big upwind goal. New York takes a 2-goal lead, 10-8. Having answered the Iguanas' upwind goal, now Chris Phillips will pull downwind to the Iguanas. Goes way out the back of the end zone. That throw went about 100 yards. Nice diving attempt by a fan there in the end zone, comes up short. Rich Russell. New York now shows a zone. Ingebrigtsen, Gallagher. If New York can stop the Iguanas here and score, they will take it to halftime with a 3-goal lead. Iguanas want to score upwind, take away New York's advantage. Ingebrigtsen operating from his own end zone. to Jacques, to Denagala, to Ryan. As they did last time, Iguanas taking a lot of passes, trying to move the disc, stretch the New York defense, get them tired. Bob Ryan is free. He's got a few steps. They don't see him. They keep it short. Ingebrigtsen. Gallagher. To number 1, James Milan, who goes back to Ingebrigtsen. To Gallagher, standing in his own end zone. Iguanas not moving the disc forward, but not really contested. Being very patient. Now to Ryan on the near side. Goes back to Gallagher, standing at the point. Looks across to Ingebrigtsen. Now to Milan, to Jacques in the middle. Look for a break. Now Gallagher to Ryan. They're moving it out. Kurt Cools is open. There it is. He's got his feet in. And the near sideline to Jacques, just missed by Vanderstraff. Gallagher to Ingebrigtsen, and they reset. Now they've got some operating room. Now Milan trying to run New York's defense around. Gallagher, nobody on the near side. Now Jacques comes back, and they go to Ingebrigtsen, to Milan, open. Up the sideline, they can't get it to number 8, Denagala. Instead, back to Ingebrigtsen. To Gallagher, Jacques pops out. They can't get it to him. They go back the other way to Ingebrigtsen. Now on the far sideline. Now they work back to within about 15 yards of their own goal line. New York steadily pushing back, looking for a deep throw. Kurt Cools is standing about 40 yards downfield. David Blau cheating in. I'm sure they'd love to be able to get to John Ryan over here for a big throw upfield. There it is to Ryan. Cools instead comes back to the disc. Now to the middle to Jacques. By coming back to the disc, Cools forced David Blau to come over towards the sideline, enabling him to get that throw over to Jacques in the middle of the field. Iguanas go to the far side. Got to figure this is taking a toll on the New York players, as zone offense is a lot easier to play than zone defense. Ingebrigtsen past the outstretched arms of number 26, Paul Shields. Now upfield, intercepted by Dave Blau. They tried to take the shot upfield, and it didn't work. Now Vanderstraff with the foul. Johnny Ryan just out through Rick Denagala. Now we're back into play. Walter Vanderstraff. I was informed that the Iguanas took 72 passes with nothing to show for it. Paul Shields on the far sideline to Aram Flores. Now I'm sorry, that's a Skip Kuhn out of Walter Vanderstraff. Rolling. Now Walter on the forehand to David Blau for the score. Nice little inside-out forehand. Vanderstraff to Dave Blau. And that takes us to the half, with New York leading the Iguanas by the score of 11-8. Iguanas to start the second half. John Ryan with a long throw. Way overshoots Jim Ingebrigtsen to start the second half. Now Pat King puts it into play. Scott Epps on the mark. Walter Vanderstraff fakes backhand, now goes backhand to Pat King. Backhand up the middle. Kevin Candy fakes forehand. Now goes to Dennis Worson. With Kurt Cools now out to Pat King. Past midfield, John Gewirtz got a man open to Kevin Candy. And they score up win to start the second half. The Iguanas came out, took a quick shot at the end zone going downwind. New York took it back. And Johnny Gawartz hits Kevin Candy. 25-yard strike on the upwind side. New York 12, Iguanas 8. New York with the pull. Iguanas will now be forced to work upwind. Jim Ingebrigtsen. Iguanas put themselves into a position where they need a goal right here early in the second half. Britson. Little backhand to Scott Epps. Fakes the big backhand. Now backhand up the sideline. Ingebrigtsen pulls it down. Fakes backhand. Now up the line. Number 8. Rick Denagala. Up the line. Number 11. He's not in. Mike Blackard. Now out to Ingebrigtsen. This would be a big goal for the Iguanas. Gallagher, standing about 10 yards out, goes up with the hammer to Kurt Cools. He's got it! The Iguanas have answered back. Jim Ingebrigtsen pulled that disc down about midfield over 2 New York defenders, keeping that possession alive. They go in for the score. Kurt Cools over Bill Rodriguez. New York 12, Iguanas 9. Iguanas now with the pull. Wins at their back. Danny Weiss on the bounce. Brings it in, and we see a zone from the Iguanas. And New York sets up their zone offense. Remember correctly, the Iguanas had 112 passes on 1 point in the first half. Look for New York to do the same kind of thing. Move the disc back and forth, wear out the defense, punch it up the middle, and hit somebody in the end zone. Now Dan Weiss in the end zone. Kareem Basta. Back to Weiss. Iguanas tighten. Back to Nevins. To Weiss. To Nevins. New York operating from their own end zone. Iguanas once again tighten. New York resets. Back to Nevins. Out to this side. Oh, nice effort by Skip Kuhn, but that's out of bounds. Iguanas. Okay, we come back into play with Rich Gallagher for the Iguanas, trying to bring it to within 2. Out to Ryan. Looks forehand, doesn't have it, goes big backhand, cross field. Not in the end zone, number 16 for the score. Tim Liddy. And suddenly the Iguanas have brought it back to within 2. New York 12, Iguanas 10. Iguanas now pull up win. The Iguana player got a little head start on that pull. Dan Weiss to Pat King. To Mike Yonda. There was a trip there. They're going to send that back. Incidental contact. Yonda never had a chance to make a play on that disc, so they'll send it back. Ready? Mike Yonda puts it into play. The observers have ruled that he had a play on that disc. Both players agreed there was a foul called. The question was it a playable disc? The observer said yes. So now Bob DeMann has it. Releases that on a count of 9 to Kenny Dobbins. Now it goes this way to Mike Yonda. Defender Rick Denagala calls a pick. They send it back to Dobbins. There's a backhand into the end zone. Over Dave Blau. Caught by Bob DeMann. Bob DeMann heads up play. Throwing over David Blau. Bob DeMann was there in the end zone to pull it in. New York 13, Iguanas 10. Dennis Worson now pulling up wind. That pull went out of bounds. One of the few we've had today. Walked up by number 99, Mark Orders. Puts it into play. Coming from the back, Scott Epps can't get open. Kurt Cools. Now goes to Scott Epps. Epps fakes down the line, goes back to the middle. Kurt Cools running Dennis Worson around. Jacques. Flick. Nice catch there by number 69, Randy Sanchez. To number 13, Jim Ingebrigtsen with John Goertz. Back to Kurt Cools. To 99, Mark Orders just past midfield. Now Mark Orders with Chris Phillips. Iguanas approximately 25 yards out. Ingebrigtsen breaks down the sideline. Hammer, he's got it. And Ingebrigtsen now goes backhand. Knocked away by Mike Yonda. John Goertz. Long throw for Dennis Worson. He's got it, and he's got two men free. Easy forehand, cross field for the score. Ingebrigtsen. An unforced error on the goal line, not a smart throw. Mike Yonda picks it up. They go immediately downfield to Dennis Worson. Into the end zone, Paul Shields. New York has scored upwind. New York 14, Iguanas 10. Chris Phillips pulls downwind. And the Iguanas, once again, after cutting it to 2, have fallen back to a 4-goal deficit. And now they're forced to work upwind against New York's zone. To give the Iguanas credit, every time it's looked like New York was about to push them out the door, they have responded, getting down early, fighting their way back. But once again, they find themselves down 4 and going upwind. Now on the far sideline, Ingebrigtsen with Greg Pins behind. Goes to Pins, now cross field. Up the middle, Jacques comes out to Epps. Back to Jacques, overthrown. Ingebrigtsen collects the garbage. 32, Gallagher. To Epps. Trying to trap him on the sideline. They go to Gallagher. Gallagher with Shields in his face. Dobbins in front of him. Goes Hammer across field. Nice throw in the wind. Greg Pins. Looks for Jacques in the middle. Doesn't have him. Ingebrigtsen. Once again, Iguanas taking lots of passes. Little push pass. Ingebrigtsen back in his own corner. Big hammer this way, Scott Epps. To Jacques, nice grab. Fakes up the middle. Has nothing in front of him. Little Hiawatha. Gallagher goes all the way across field to Pins. Looking down the sideline, has nothing, goes to the middle. Now they have men free on this side. Next one to Epps. He's got it on the sideline. Back to Jacques in the middle. Knocks down Dobbins. A little bit of a, perhaps an Emmy Award for that performance from Kenny Dobbins. The way he's built, it's going to take a lot more than that to knock him down. Hamming it up with the crowd, Kenny Dobbins. Now Jacques goes back. Dobbins went down like he'd been shot on that one. Now Pins on the far sideline. Fake to Ingebrigtsen. There's Jacques in the middle. Nice catch again. Jack's finding himself on the ground a lot at this point. Epps on the near sideline. Now Jacques trying to get into the middle there. He's been instrumental in this point. Now Gallagher at the point. Looks flick. Now he goes big one cross field. 2 men open there. Pins. Doesn't have anybody. Now goes to Jacques. Once again, the Iguanas find themselves working upwind about 20 yards out. Ingebrigtsen now. To Gallagher. This side to Epps. He has Jacques up the middle. Knocked down by Dobbins. Back to Gallagher. Looking for men in the middle. Has Pins. Doesn't throw it. Ingebrigtsen. Fakes to Pins. Now to Gallagher. Fakes up the middle. Now Ingebrigtsen. In the far sideline. Pins. These guys are working it very well. Stuck. Pins throws that push pass over Andy Sheeman's head. Now Ingebrigtsen being forced to the sideline. Pops it out to Gallagher. Now back about midfield. Gallagher. Now to Jacques. Out to Ingebrigtsen. Up the sideline to Pins. Looking for the end zone. Push pass back to Ingebrigtsen. To Jacques. Fakes. Now backhand to Ingebrigtsen. They get closer. Jim looks. Fakes him off. Foul on Sheeman. This is a big sequence for the Iguanas. They can't afford to go down 5 at this point in the game. They need to score this upwind goal. Now Gallagher. Gallagher gets stuck. Throws a hammer to Epps, who's got the disc. A great catch to keep it alive. Scott Epps. Now back into play. Scott Epps to Gallagher. Now in the middle to Jacques. Andy Sheeman on the mark. Now to Gallagher. As Paul Shields takes up the mark. Goes forehand into a stiff wind to Greg Pins. And they work upfield. It goes back to Gallagher. Has Epps open. Goes in the middle to Jacques instead. Now they're about 10 yards out. To Kurt Kuhl's for the score. Finally, the Iguanas, after a long sequence of passes, have once again answered back upwind to cut the gap to 3. New York 14, Iguanas 11. Iguanas now pull wind at their backs. Coming off a great 66 pass possession, working upwind for the score. A couple great catches to keep it alive. Scott Epps notably towing the sideline on an overthrow. Now New York must face the Iguana zone. Getting into crunch time here. Getting into crunch time. As we start losing light, we've been informed that the game will most likely be time capped in approximately 15 minutes. So everything that happens from here on out is very critical. Yanda stuck in the corner. Now gets it out to number 6. That was Mike Turoff. Now over to Mike Yanda. Goes to Turoff. Fakes. Now this side, Danny Weiss. Fakes to Mike Nevins. Now back to Pat King. Iguanas putting the clamps on. New York taking their time. Kareem Basta now. To Danny Weiss. Big swing. Mike Yanda. Looks away and throws to Bob DeMann. Back to the middle for Pat King. To Danny Weiss. Long swing to Mike Yanda. On his own goal line. Yanda looking through the middle. Goes across to Weiss. Doesn't have Turoff in the middle. Doesn't have Nevins. Goes to Basta. Now King. Out on the far sideline, and that's down. It's exactly what they wanted. Force them to make a lot of passes. Percentages in their favor. Now the Iguanas to again cut it to 2. There's a hammer for number 1. James Millen from number 99. Mark orders And just when it looks like they're about to fold over and die, the Iguanas once again have brought it back to within 2. New York 14, Iguanas 12. Yeah, I have it in my pocket. The Iguanas now pull upwind. New York coming downwind left to right. Aram Flores to Skip Kuhn. Goes across to Kenny Dobbins. Mark Orders on the D. Kenny Dobbins, cross field. Oh my! David Blau off his hands. Iguanas now moving upfield, trying to take advantage. If they score here, they can cut it to 1, and this place will go nuts. Now Ryan. Greg Pins. Now Ryan. Working upwind. They haven't had trouble against... Oh, and a drop! Through all those quality possessions against the zone, they just had a drop against the man. Now Skip Kuhn, little backhand to Kenny Dobbins for the score. That's got to be disappointing for the Iguanas after getting that back to turn it back over on a drop. New York 15, Iguanas 12. Dennis Worson pulls now to Jack Jacques. Iguanas now must answer back. Scott Epps chases it down. Inga Britson makes a deep move. There's this throw from Epps. Inga Britson took a step as if he were going to go deep, and Epps threw it just as he did. Inga Britson broke it off. That's a turnover. Well, a special thanks goes to Whammo and Discovering the World, who have supplied the Whammo UMAX disc as the official playing disc for all tournament games. Hosting the 1990 UPA National Championships is the Ultimate and Disc Association of the Palm Beaches under the direction of Tim Finan. The UDA is a Palm Beach County disc sports club with more than 300 participants. The organization sponsors co-ed Ultimate Leagues throughout the year, as well as the Ultimate Beach Bowl. The Iguanas now take over after John Ryan hand stuffs Pat King. Out to Inga Britson. Into the goal and dropped. Randy Sanchez couldn't get to that tough throw from Inga Britson. After the great hand stuff by John Ryan on Pat King, Iguanas could not take advantage. Now King brings it up against Ryan again. Ryan with that big reach. And Pat King calls timeout. As I was saying, the UDA is a Palm Beach County disc sports club that sponsors co-ed Ultimate Leagues throughout the year, as well as the annual Ultimate Beach Bowl, Ultimate Hat Tournaments, 1990 sectionals, and disc golf outings. Play, New York working from their own goal line. John Goertz to Kevin Candy. Dennis Worston, and it's down. New York, uncharacteristically, a couple errors here in this point. Now Inga Britson. Iguanas trying to take advantage. Kurt Cools. Goes backhand to Inga Britson for the score. And Worson is now going to claim that Kurt Cools traveled, moved his pivot foot in order to throw that over his shoulder. Iguanas pull. They've closed the gap to 2. Eventually they're going to need to score on that upwind side if they want to win this game. Danny Weiss. New York's looked a little sloppy on their last couple possessions. Mike Yonda reels it in. Somebody's got to be free. Now Greg Pins to Bob DeMann. Now DeMann to the middle to Dobbins with Brent Russell. Dobbins backhand for the score to Skip Kuhn. Making it look very simple that time down the field. New York 16, Iguanas 13.
I hope so.
You never know.
I've got to shoot him up before the sun goes down.
Now New York with the upwind pull. Iguanas going downwind. Gallagher looking for Inga Britson, doesn't have him. Now goes to Kurt Cools with Dennis Worsen. A little forehand. Nice grab there by number 16, Tim Liddy. They're going to send that back. They're going to say there was a pick. Nice catch there by Liddy, though. Now Cools over to Gallagher. Wind is picking up. Ingebrigtsen can't get it to him. Now over to Epps. Nice catch. Back to Ryan. Forehand this way. Nice catch by number 42, Cliff Smith. And he floats one up for Gallagher. Nice catch there by Smith. Smith caught the disc and Smith threw the disc. I don't think anybody touched that. I don't think anybody touched that. A lot of contact there. They're going to have to sort this out. Looked like one of the Iguanas players came flying in there. If you're going to jump, you're supposed to be jumping vertically into your vertical space so as not to run into anybody. Back in play, New York. A critical error there by the Iguanas, turning it over. Pat King can't get it. Now we go backhand. That was Juano Flores on that nice catch. Picking up the garbage. Now Walter Vanderstraff. And we'll call that back. Gewertz calling out the play for his team. Throws cross field. The wind's picking up, so most discs are hanging. Look like nice catch there by number 26, Paul Shields, to Juano Flores for the upwind goal. That disc was up in the air, knocked by Tim Liddy. Everybody seemed to stand around while Paul Shields pulled that in, got it to Juano Flores. New York pulling in the garbage and taking advantage, taking the upwind goal to take the 4-goal lead. New York 17, Iguanas 13. Now New York pulls downwind. Iguanas have to be smarting after that sequence. Worked it all the way down to the goal line, only to have Cliff Smith throw a floating pass, which was missed by about 5. No backhand to Ryan. Backhand to Ingebrigtsen, looks downfield, decides not to. With Gewertz on the mark. Back to Gallagher. Now out this way, fakes to pins, goes to Ingebrigtsen. And dropped by Epps. And Epps is down. The throw is off. Worston about a yard out for the score. But they're gonna talk about this. It looks like there was a man down. There was a man down who is still down. They went ahead and played the disc anyway. I think they may send that back. After a long discussion, a foul was called on the throw. None of that last sequence counted. And we're back to Gallagher with the disc, with Vanderstraff marking. Iguanas trail by 4 and need the goal upwind. Ryan and Ingebrigtsen looking to get open. It's Ryan. Big cut from the back to this side. Now Ingebrigtsen. A comeback number 1 is covered. Now a backhand to Gallagher, who gets open. Now to pins. Out to Gallagher with Vanderstraff on the mark. Ryan bounces back, catches a little backhand about midfield. Now looks backhand, now forehand, Ingebrigtsen. Nice fake, turns around, throws forehand. Nice catch by number 22, Epps. Now Epps. Epps to Ryan, who falls down. Now forehand to Ingebrigtsen, nice throw. Iguanas challenging again, upwind. Epps has a man, doesn't throw it. Now the careful one to Gallagher. Has pins, Now Epps. And Gallagher calls a timeout about 15 yards out from the end zone. All right, number 32, Rich Gallagher of the Iguanas will pick it up. We've been informed that the stall count was on 9. Walter did get off the word 9. So once he hands the disc back to Gallagher, or once he touches the disc in play, he will go stalling 10. If he gets off the word 10, then it will be a stall. So look for Gallagher. Doesn't have much time. He's just going to get rid of it. And there it is. Punches it to Pins. Nice defense. And intercepted. Skip Q knocks it away from Greg Pins. Gallagher had no choice but to get rid of that quickly. It looked like Pins had position, but the forehand sort of hung up in the wind. And that was, excuse me, Juano Flores on the defense. Long forehand. Nice move by Juano. Forehand to Andy Sheeman, all alone in the end zone for the score. And for the first time in the game, New York has taken a 5-goal lead. Excuse me, for the first time since 6-1, New York has taken a 5-goal lead. New York 18, Iguanas 13, in a game to 21. New York Skip Kuhn on the pull. The Iguanas, the last several points, a few costly errors, notably the last goal after working it upwind all the way up the field, only to throw it away. Juano Flores making a great defensive play to turn the disc over. New York marching down to score with the 5-goal lead. And the Iguanas answer right back. Kurt Cools in the corner of the end zone, making it look easy. The Iguanas have a long way to go. They still trail by 4. New York 18, Iguanas 14. Iguanas pull up win. We've been informed that the time cap is in effect, which means the game is now to 20. First team to 20 will be the men's national champions, Yanda. And in a change of strategy, we now have the Iguanas playing zone defense. New York going downwind. New York going downwind against the zone. Have gotten it to midfield with a relative ease. Now Weiss, right in the middle of the UPA symbol. Weiss steps around, throws to Pat King. New York needs 2 to win. Long forehand, Bob Demand. Nevins is open for the score! Iguanas playing zone defense. New York with the wind at their back shreds the zone. They are now 1 goal away from being your men's open division champions. New York 19, Iguanas 14. And New York now upwind to the Iguanas, who move left to right. Ingebrigtsen. Kurt Cools looks it into his hands with Pat King on the mark. And King hacks Cools. Cools to Ingebrigtsen. Make no mistake, New York wants to end it right now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to trade goals. Iguanas have to think about getting one at a time. Cools faking underneath. Now to Gallagher. Gallagher, forehand to Epps, who's played a great game. Now backhand to Jacques. Nice catch. Once again, Jack finding the ground. Ingebrigtsen. Nice defense. Kevin Candy. New York picks up the disc. You can see it in their eyes. All they have to do is put this one in, and they are the first team since Glassboro in 1979-1980 to repeat as national champions. Gewurz calls timeout. New York now facing the Iguana zone, working from their own goal line. Turoff out to Pat King. Paul Shields breaks deep. Pat King goes instead cross field to Skip Kuhn. Over to John Gewurz to Skip Kuhn. Pat King. Turoff playing in the middle. Now they go backhand, Skip Kuhn. Skip up the middle. Nice cut by Kevin Candy. They've got Paul Shields deep. Turoff. Now looking deep to Shields. 20 yards away. He fakes. Fakes again. Shields has Turoff. Has Turoff. Not in. There it is. Kevin Candy. No. No. They're going to bring it back. They're going to bring it back. The throw to Turoff won't count. Paul Shields with the disc. Now it goes back to King. And they're going to send it back. Once again, Shields with Epps on the mark. Fakes to King, has Turoff. Now he doesn't. Now goes to King. Over to Skip Kuhn. Looks up the middle. Goes all the way over to Gewirtz. Now all the way across, and Johnny Gewirtz has overthrown Pat King. John Gewirtz, perhaps a little excited there. Overthrew Pat King, which is not an easy thing to do. Now Inga Britzen brings it in. To Gallagher, they've overthrown it. Ryan can't get it. Shields picks up the disc, has Juano Flores for the score! Your 1990 national champions, New York Ultimate. I'm with Kenny Dobbins of the Open Division champion, New York Ultimate. Kenny, LA got down early by about 6-1. They looked kind of tight. This was their first national championships. Then they came back and gave you a pretty good fight. Yeah, they definitely did, and we didn't think we really had them out of the game at that point. They're too good a team. They wouldn't have gotten this far if they were that easily rattled. We knew they'd have the jitters coming in. We wanted to get up on them early. We hoped to hold that lead. But it came back. They're a tough team. They played really well. I give them a lot of credit, but we earned this. We kicked butt all tournament long. We're the best team here. One of the things I noticed from calling up in the booth is that you guys seem to get a lot of players involved in your offense, as opposed to the Iguanas, who have 4 or 5 main guys, and the rest of them are sort of on a secondary level. You guys seem to keep everybody involved, though. Is that part of your offensive strategy? Yeah, the reason we do that is so that other teams can't key on certain people and therefore shut down our offense. We're a lot deeper than most teams that play this game. That's a great strength. If we didn't spread the offense around, we wouldn't be using that strength to our advantage. I know it's a little bit early, but what do you think about a three-peat? Well, I don't know. I'm quitting. This is it. But this team can win again. This is a great team. We got some great young talent. And the thing is, we have the fire. You know, we haven't lost a game in a year. And to keep that kind of intensity up when you win all the time takes a lot of heart. We've got a lot of heart. Congratulations, Kenny. Good luck to you. Thank you. Well, that about wraps it up from the West Palm Beach Polo Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've had a great day of Ultimate. The 1990 Men's Open Division champions, New York Ultimate. Thanks for coming. Until next year, good luck, good day, and good Ultimate.